recap, the words that we were given were chance, example, harm, and departure. And now our story begins in a period called the Great Renewal. This is past an apocalyptic point in human time where modern technology went to its peak and eventually just destroyed itself. Now everyone is starting from square one, and this is marked in the calendar for this next generation of people as year one and post the Great Renewal. So the story starts off, our main character Mateo is sitting around the fire with his old friend, Brother Isaac. Brother Isaac is a brother in the Chosen Children, and he has access to the Forbidden Library. So he likes to bring tales of old technology and the old ways to Mateo. So he says, Mateo, the world used to be such an amazing place. They had carriages with engines called cars. They had boxes that would give you food when you punch in buttons, and they had birds that would carry hundreds of people across seas. There was greenery everywhere. Food was plentiful, and drinking water was created out of thin air from machines. Mateo is fascinated by these stories, so he says, Brother Isaac, what happened to all this great technology? Well, Mateo, technology can be used for both good and bad. The greed of human nature and lust for power drove man to use this technology for destruction, and that's when the Great Renewal happened. But legend has it that across the desert sands there is a land and people living and trying to renew and rebuild the old technology of the olden ways. There's green pastures there already, and it is said that they use machinery as part of their everyday life. Mateo is amazed, and the night ends by Brother Isaac surprising Mateo, handing him a small book from the Forbidden Library. And Brother Isaac says, whatever you do, you must keep this book away from your friends and family, but it is yours to keep, and it'll be our little secret. So later that night, or a few days later, Mateo's mom is cleaning his room, and she stumbles across said book. She's scared once she finds it, because she knows exactly what it is. So immediately, she goes straight to Archlord Maxim. Archlord Maxim tells Mateo's mother, worry not, child. We will remedy this situation. So that night, he has his guards go into Brother Isaac's chambers, and they take him. The next day, Mateo's woken up by his mother, saying that they have an emergency town meeting to attend. Mateo's in good spirits. He has no idea what's happening. So they walk towards the center of town. There's a crowd of people there already, and Archlord Maxim is on the podium. He's delivering a speech, something along the lines of, children of the Chosen, we've worked hard to secure this way of life. We know of what happened in the olden times before the Great Renewal, how technology has destroyed humankind, and it is up to us, the Chosen Children, to make sure humans can flourish once again on Earth. Now, we work very hard to protect and keep away the nature and information of said technology from those who might use it for evil doings. And those who threaten our way of life must be severely punished. And then we see a man being escorted onto the stage by two executioners, and he's got a bag over his head. And Dave, who is this man?
The Archlord Maxim tells the executioner to remove the cloth so everyone can see and make an example out of this man. To the horror, the man is Brother Isaac. Mateo cannot believe his eyes. The townspeople start to make an example by throwing rotten food and spitting on him. As they are finishing, the Archbishop raises his hand and tells the executioner to position his body just above the pike. The Archlord looks directly into Mateo's eyes, down to his soul. With that, the Archlord gives the word to drop the body onto the pike. Mateo shrieks in horror. As he's trying to look away, his mother is telling him to watch. Years go by. Mateo gets older. He becomes one of the head brothers in the Chosen Children. He has forgotten all about the past and those tech books, probably buried away in his memory as a painful memory. But on his 18th birthday, he's given access to the forbidden books. It is his job now to patrol the library of which they're kept. One day, on his shift, as he's patrolling the library, he sees the same book that was given to him by his good friend, Brother Isaac. Mateo rushes over to the book and begins to read it. Now he starts reading it every time that he's on this shift. One day, as he's out in the back reading the book, A Care in the World, a large falcon flies overhead and lands near him. To his amazement, upon further looking, it has robotic eyes. He approaches the falcon and tries to touch it. The falcon bounces and flies away. The next day, Mateo goes out, this time looking for the falcon, and the falcon returns, but has a note with it that reads, Brother Mateo, my name is Caleb. I am the leader of the sect of Steel. I'm also an old friend of Brother Isaac. The note continues on, but the offer to pick up where Brother Isaac had ended is given to Mateo. Now, Kevin, did you want to jump in from this point?
Yeah, so Mateo accepts this mission. He wants to continue the mission that Brother Isaac started when he was just a younger child. So secretly, when Mateo goes on shifts, he starts to find schematics that the Sect of Steel is looking for and give it to them regularly at night when he's not seen during his shift. He starts to take over other people's shifts so he can give out more information. But one night, while he was on his shift, another brother is just coming back from the bathroom and spots Mateo at a tree speaking with said falcon. He's like, what is Mateo doing speaking to a bird? And he sees Mateo. He has a parchment with him. He's scrolling it up, putting it into a canister, handing it to the falcon, and the falcon flies off. This alerts the brother. The brother then goes to Archlord Maxim and snitches. And the next day, Archlord Maxim calls Brother Mateo into his chambers. He says, Brother Mateo, have a seat. Do you realize the importance of the work that we're doing here? Brother Mateo says, yes, of course, Archlord Maxim. You know, before the Great Renewal, lots of my family members were wiped out during the Great War. That was all due to technology, because technology promotes the evil and sinful nature of man. That right, Mateo? Yes, Archlord Maxim. So Archlord Maxim takes a seat next to Mateo, puts his arm around him, and he says, you know, the last time we had this happen, we lost a very valuable brother of ours, Brother Isaac. You remember that, right, Mateo? Mateo Tinley says, yes, of course. And Archlord Maxim says, before we caught Brother Isaac, we noticed that documents were missing from the Forbidden Library leading up to his capture. And fellow brothers of ours have told us that there have been more leaked documents or missing documents from the library. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you, Mateo? Mateo's burning up inside, but with the best poker face, he says, no, Archlord Maxim, but I will keep an eye out on my patrol. There's a moment of silence. Archlord Maxim says, okay, you may go now, Mateo.
As Mateo leaves, he's frightened, scared to death, but he kept on a good poker face while in the presence of the Archlord. Mateo looks behind him and finds that he's being followed. He understands that from now on, life is going to become very difficult for him. The next day, or perhaps a week later, but decides to send out a falcon, sending a simple message saying he can no longer help or assist them with sending more documents, trying to wish them the best and sever ties. What he didn't know was that as that falcon left and it seemed to gain height up into the sky, it was shot down with a bow and arrow, and his message was intercepted by the Brotherhood. Those that were watching, well, now they know the truth about Brother Mateo. In this confusion, as the Brotherhood goes to figure out what to do about Brother Mateo, the Sect of Steel sends him another falcon. This time they drop him a schematic. This is the first time that they ever dropped him any information or schematic. And the schematic is to make a bottle out of water in the desert. Something that can be very useful for someone surrounded by desert. The Brotherhood comes searching for him. A friend of his alerts him that they're on their way now. Mateo spills out the back of his house and masks himself into the crowd. They're now patrolling and searching the street for him. Eventually, he makes his way to the outer limits of the city and escapes in the middle of the night. He decides he's going to take his chances in the desert. As he gains a good fair distance away from where his home used to be, he looks up to the stars and asks God for forgiveness. Falls asleep underneath the night sky, exhausted at the day's events. The next morning, he wakes up to find something rustling below his feet. He jolts up and is shocked to find a swarm of desert piranhas coming in for a bite. He hauls ass up a large rock. They end up swimming away as they realize he will not be their lunch or their breakfast. He watches them go, and as they pass the horizon, he sees something else seemingly coming towards him. He squints his eyes to see if he can get a better look. At that exact moment, an arrow whizzes right past his head. He knows who it is. The Brotherhood has come for him. He takes off running into the desert. Mateo is able to escape and is now wandering the desert all alone with the hot sun beating on his back. His thirst begins to build. And then he remembers the schematic of how to make the bottle in the desert, perhaps with the grass hands, to quench his thirst. He makes the said bottle. To his amazement, after a couple tries, it works. And the bottle fills with water, and he's able to quench his thirst.
Oh, with this new bottle, Mateo's amazed. He laughs because he just can't realize that it works. This is science. This is engineering. And this was his future. Mateo starts trekking across the desert sands and he's getting chased. He doesn't know it yet, but he's getting chased very closely. When he has to ascend up a cliff to get to the other side, an arrow hits a rock right next to him, and he sees a member of the Brotherhood tailing him, reloading his crossbow. So he's running, struggling up, running in sand, traversing this rock. The brother follows him, tackles Mateo to the ground. They have a struggle. They're rolling and rolling, and now they're hanging off the ledge of this giant cliff. And at the bottom of the cliff is a swarm of desert piranhas hunting and having their meals. Mateo's hanging on to the ledge with two hands, and a member of the Brotherhood's hanging on by his foot. Mateo tries to kick him off with no use, and then he takes his bottle and just swings it back and hits the Brotherhood member on the head. The Brotherhood member's mask flies off, revealing that it is one of Mateo's brother from the Church of the Chosen Children. Now, this brother is begging Mateo not to let him go. He's begging for his life. Mateo hesitates. He's a religious man, so he doesn't know what to do in this situation. But it's either him or me. So he swings his bottle and hits his brother on the head again, this time letting go of the bottle because he hit the guy so hard on the head. And you see the Brotherhood member fall into the pit of desert piranhas, his body sinking into the sand. You see his hand slowly sink into the sand along with the bottle. Mateo forces himself up the cliff, saving himself. He has no bottle, and he's bloodied, battered.
Yes, poor Mateo is in a worse state than before. Doesn't have bottle for water. He's bloodied, bruised, tired. They've been unrelenting in their hunting of this man, and he's been in fear that the desert piranhas would eat him at any moment. Mateo continues to wander the hot desert. As he does this, he prays to the Lord and asks him what was his purpose on this earth, purpose on this land. Of course, no one responds. He screams it again, and again, no one responds, as if the universe not willing to listen. Mateo's on the cusp of death. He makes his peace with the Lord, when all of a sudden he hears a whisper. Turns his head and finds a member of the sect of Steel coming towards him. He blacks out. When he awakes, finds that they have saved his life and they're currently healing him back to full health. He's able to see all the tech that they were able to build around him, completely different from the life and the lives of those living back for the chosen children. It amazes him. It brings a tear to his eyes. He doesn't know how to feel about this. It's at that point Mateo believes it is his job, it is his duty, it is his purpose to spread tech around the world to save mankind. The end.
There we go. What a story.
What a story indeed.